Is Conner Weigman about to be unlocked because he's fully healthy? I mean, you never know. Parker Ainsworth, Locked On Cougs, joining me here. Let's talk Houston. That's a Big 12 school for those of you that have forgotten. And an article came out recently, Parker, that Conner Weigman, last time he was on the field, was battling an injury the entire time, and now isn't as much. What can you tell us here?
Yeah, so he took a bad injury in his upper body his his first season as the starter, and had to sit and apparently just hated it. Like sat there on Saturdays and just was like, "This is miserable. I'm sitting here watching my guy. Like I can't do anything about this." So when he hurt his AC joint last season, and was like being told like, "Hey, you should probably have something done to that so you can come back healthy or whatever." He goes like, "I can't do that all over again. What else what other options are there?" And it sounds like he like shot himself up, like not shot himself up, but got shot up with Toradol every week to get out there and play, alter his mechanics even a little bit to be able to like actually get the ball down, like the downfield that extent that he could, and like was really pretty hush hush about it because he like didn't want to draw attention to himself. He's not that kind of a guy, right? And then ultimately, once he ends up like going through the season, he gets replaced. The fans turn on him a little bit there in Aggie land, as they are prone to do. And I think that's all very natural when you don't know he's playing hurt, right? Like we saw, like Cleveland turned on Baker Mayfield. Like these things happen, right? The deal is that he was like, well, I'm just going to get out. Now in college football, you can just get out of there, and so he entered the transfer portal and looked at a couple options. Ultimately, very literally came home to Houston, right? He's from, I went to high school in the Houston area, and his dad played for Willie Fritz back at Sam Houston a long time ago. Like there's just a lot of connections here, and he took an unofficial visit and committed like then. He was like, yeah, no, I'm coming to Houston. Like, this is going to work. And there's a lot of people in the program and around the program that feel like, hey, we just landed a 5-star quarterback. Like, look, why is no one talking about this? It's a 5-star quarterback coming to Houston. He was, I think it was, some people had him as third, some people had a second quarterback in the class at a high school, and it's a big deal. It's not something Houston typically gets. We can talk about Keyshawn Henderson too in 2026. That's down the road a little bit. So, no, people are excited about especially with the latest news that CBS reported first, the healthy version of Conner Weigman's got a lot of people excited.
Do you think the healthy version of Conner Weigman? Well, let's backtrack for just a moment. Most people listening to or watching this show are probably not medical professionals, Parker. So based on what you've been able to discern and what's been reported, how big of a change do you think this could make? Because he wasn't necessarily bad at Texas A&M, wasn't great either, but I mean, is this going to be a different looking player? Because he has a little bit in his throwing motion from what I've seen. He's got a little bit of the Phillip Rivers in him, where like it just doesn't have, some big giant wind up or anything. No one actually throws exactly like Phillip Rivers. It's
only one of those. Yeah.
Just so we make that clear. But do you think that this unlocks Weigman, and Willie Fritz has now got, one of the 2 or 3 truly most talented quarterbacks in the Big 12?
Well, so I will say I teach history, not science or biology, I think, during the day, right? But I do think that when you look at the way he played A&M, the deep ball didn't have a lot of zip on it, and you start talking shoulder joints and stuff like that. Like there may be something to that, and not being able to push the ball quite as far downfield, especially when you have like A&M has a lot of talented receiver, and they're an SEC school with all the SEC and NIL dollars and all that kind of stuff. And so I think there's something to that idea of an AC joint injury inhibiting some of that, even if you're on a bunch of Toradol. I certainly will tell you this much: the staff thinks so. The staff is in love with what they got out of the guy. We're both on and off. They love that he's a presence in the locker room that just brings a different level of confidence, I think, than they've had at that position in a little bit. People like him a lot, and so taking them at their word on that, I think that may be a good enough, better difference than anything else, right? I mean, confidence can go a long way.
So with Houston trying to take that next step, which is maybe the most common offseason phrase in college football, you used to talk about a team, coach, player, program, like whatever, next step material. Houston has to have more than just a healthy and thriving Conner Weigman, because he is but one guy of 22 plus special teams that will regularly be on the field for the Cougars, of course. So I'm on a mission, Parker. I've been on a mission here on the show to find every team's most important transfer, and I need your help with that. So you give me the guy that pops in your mind when I say the top transfer, and there's another portal window opening in a few weeks. This could change for some teams. You never know. But right now, Parker, who is the transfer that's got to be absolutely awesome from the moment the season kicks off for Houston to take that next step and be an 8-9 win team?
I think film nerds are going to tell you it's a guy named Harvey Broussard, comes up from Louisiana Raging Cajuns, wide receiver, 6'3", and like just dominated that level of football. Wanted to come play at a bigger conference, bigger level of football, etc. I think the more impactful transfer, though, just because of what they need, is going to be a kid named Mackenzie Agnello. He played at New Mexico. He was an all-conference performer there on the offensive line. And honestly, he played at some point in the last 2 seasons at 4 of the 5 spots. I guess didn't play both tackles, but at 4 of the 5 spots on the offensive line. I don't know which he will start at for Houston, but he's a starter when he shows up. And so based on what happened last year and some of the leaks and holes they had in protection, he may be the most impactful guy, even if insert random offensive line position is not the sexiest name, especially when you factor in like Conner Weigman has been hurt twice in this many years. You got to keep him upright.
You know, one team that comes to mind with that career trajectory is Washington from a couple of seasons ago with Michael Penix. You know, Penix was at Indiana, and you know what? When he played, he was great, but he couldn't stay on the field. And he just wasn't able to avoid that injury bug, and he was running for his life all the time, and he wasn't a super mobile guy. Then he goes up to Washington, and the questions asked by people such as myself were, well, is he going to be able to stay on the field? Because I haven't seen him do that yet. And if Conner Weigman doesn't stay on the field, well, Houston's probably back into, at least I presume, unless you got a dynamite backup quarterback that you really, really like in there, you're probably back into, well, you know, we'll build on something for next year. But then Penix plays behind one of the best offensive lines of college football. All of a sudden, he blossoms and is a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Not saying that happens for Weigman, but that's the sort of transformation you're looking for here, right?
Yeah, it's keeping them upright. They brought in, they first of all returned their one decent offensive lineman from last year at the center spot, and they brought in 5 new ones as well. Create a little competition there. All 5 guys have started some games either in the Big 12, like a couple of these guys. We got one guy from Baylor, one guy from Tech, or were like high-level performers at smaller institutions. And so they're hoping to bolster that up a lot. And frankly, they all committed within a week of Weigman announcing he was coming. I mean, it's very clearly they wanted to come play in an offense that's a little bit more explosive than what Houston's been in the past. And so I think it's going to kind of be this like group effort. We're going to learn a lot in the spring. They start spring practice soon, actually. They didn't start this past week because spring break. But we'll see a lot more out of these guys and kind of see who's shaping up as what position. I mentioned Agnello, like what position is he going to play, right? But several guys along that offensive line will be important. And Weigman brought an energy, I think, to the program's offense that was very much needed after a couple of years of not a whole lot of touchdowns.